This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 372 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 9th of February 2026. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
Oh, loving the curling.
Graham.
I spent €120 on an Amiga network card.
And Kevin.
Hello, hello.
I'm not getting into the Winter Olympics, and maybe at some point we'll talk about your network card, but thank you for joining us, Kevin. Will is away with work, I think, so we've got you to stand in.
Glad to be here.
People may know you from Linux Dev Time, which they should definitely check out. Valve put up a post, Steam hardware, launch timing and other FAQs, and I was excited for a second and then somewhat disappointed. Essentially, sometime this year for the new hardware.
They do say the first half of this year, don't they? But they're admitting that they'd wanted to announce launch dates and pricing before now, and they're not. So I agree, it's looking dubious.
You can't blame them, really. At this point, they just have no idea how much RAM is going to be, SSDs, even CPUs now I've heard are going ridiculous price-wise.
Thanks very much, Sam Altman.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of this, I think, is going to be trying to keep those things as affordable as possible. But I feel like the prices aren't going to come down anytime soon. And I could see Valve kind of shelving it for a short term. I don't know. I really hope not.
Anytime they have these predictions that are like this sort of vague, like hopefully this time or the first half of the year, that makes me nervous because places are known to slip. And if there's no details, then it's even easier to slip.
Yeah, they've not made any promises, have they? So, they've said we're hoping by the middle of the year, kind of this half. But that could easily slip to, now we're hoping for Q3 and then, now we're hoping for Q4. And it could end up being over a year.
I mean, with the Steam machines, at least RAM is modular, so they could lower the spec or they could leave it up to people, to the customers, to spend whatever they want to on the RAM. But it's going to take it out of that games console territory, which I thought they were going to be on the very high end of anyway, and make it seem like a much harder proposition for people who are thinking of swapping out a console for a PC.
They did say that the SSD and RAM are easily accessible and swappable, but I don't think they could sell it bare bones. I think the whole point of it is to just deliver one finished unit that people can plug into their telly and start playing games on.
At this rate, they're going to have a DDR3 adapter, let alone a DDR4 adapter, because just the impossibility of getting the damn stuff.
Yeah, maybe they'll say, we're actually going to ship 4th gen i5 with DDR3.
They can make use of all those Windows 11 PC processors and memory that's knocking about.
Yeah, exactly. They've just been scouring eBay, probably. Well, we'll have to see. I'm still hopeful, but I'm kind of losing a bit of that hope as every day goes on.
I was surprised that the Steam frame was kind of bundled into this announcement, because I had thought that being more commoditized, it's not affecting smartphone prices, and this is basically a smartphone. And I had hoped it was kind of fixed in and it wouldn't be affected. So I don't know. The controller seems to be part of this thing as well. So maybe they're just wanting to announce all of the availability at the same time, and it's the Steam machine that's holding the rest back.
I don't know about that smartphone thing, because prices have been affected and certainly specs have been affected. You're starting to see lower spec phones or like low-end phones that a year or two ago had 4 gigs of RAM have still got 4 gigs of RAM.
Maybe you're right.
So it's not just, plug-in DDR4 and 5 that are affected by this. But yeah, it feels like they could easily release the controller anytime they wanted to. But they announced it as a package of products, and it seems like they want to follow through on that.
Yeah.
But the controller was always the least exciting to me.
Yeah. It looks now like they'll all be released along with Half-Life 3.
And what is it, GTA 5 or 6 or something?
I wonder if they will try and hold it back at all, though. Like, to be able to release this as a giant bundle where they all work seamlessly together, kind of like the Apple type thing, like that's appealing, especially as we start getting into the later part of the year and looking at holidays. At the same time, like, it would be terrible if they had to hold back either the frame or the controller or some other stuff just to kind of like release all of this at once, at least in my opinion.
Well, we will definitely keep an eye on it. All right, well, the most exciting news in the Linux world for decades. XFWL4, X44, the roadmap for an XFCE Wayland compositor.
And it's going to be written in Rust.
Yes.
And it's going to use Smith Hay as the building block.
You had my attention at Rust, definitely. I was curious, though, like, there have been several different either like Wayland compositors that they've tried to write in Rust, and like they always kind of fall over or get abandoned because Rust is a somewhat strict language and makes modeling certain types of programs a little bit more difficult, especially if they're written in a very C way, I guess. And the Wayland protocol, I guess, is one of those types of things that is somewhat difficult to do in Rust. So I'm very interested in this. I want to follow this. I actually didn't even know about this until I saw this article. So I'm going to be following it, but I do have some skepticism as to how far it will get, because it seems like that first 80% is pretty easy. It's the last 120% that's difficult.
And if people don't know, you are a Rust enthusiast, so you know what you're talking about here.
Very much so. I've been writing Rust for a long time, since probably around 2014-ish time frame. So I do like writing in Rust. It's not the only thing I write in, but I do very much enjoy it. So these types of projects are very interesting to me. But this one, I'm wishing them the best. Going to keep a close eye.
I think he's fudging numbers. Well, did Rust exist back then?
Rust 1.0 did not exist back then, that's for sure.
He's one of these people who's like 20 years of Rust experience on his CV. Like,
well, there are no promises in terms of when we're going to get this. The plan is for middle of the year and alpha. So it's definitely not going to be in Ubuntu 26.04. I would be surprised if it makes it into Ubuntu before the next LTS, after that 28.04, but we'll see. I want to believe. I'm disappointed that you have doubts, Kevin. I really hoped you would be like, oh yeah, this is going to be super easy and it's going to come any day now.
Well, I will say, like, this core developer, Brian, who is writing this, he seems to have quite a bit of experience in both Rust and C, so I think he's probably going in eyes wide open, and maybe he's done some research here. So there is reason for optimism.
Good. Well, I'm really, really excited. It means that I might maybe be able to stay on XFCE for the long term and not have to move to Plasma or GNOME or something else modern.
For the longer term. I mean, the good thing is XFCE users are very patient. So even if it takes 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. At least there's light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a very, very long tunnel.
when it is released, it won't look any different anyway. It won't even have colours. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, that is the goal, for us to not notice. So yes, very, very excited. Sudo's maintainer needs resources to keep utility updated. Todd Miller has been working on sudo for 30 years or more than 30 years. And the company that he was working for, Quest Software, that seemingly was sponsoring his work on that, well, that ended in February 2024. So he has not really been working very much on sudo. He's been kind of doing it part-time. And I don't think this is a new thing that he's looking for sponsors, but the Register recently picked this up and wrote an article about it. And so I thought we could at least give him a shout out. Sudo is pretty fucking important. I mean, we do have sudo RS now, but that doesn't take away the importance of sudo, the original.
Yeah, and sudo RS too does not re-implement all of sudo, and also in the way that sudo did it. Like they did I forget what they called it, like a conscious re-implementation where they decided what parts to keep, which parts not, which parts to change. So while the 90% of what most people, I would assume, use sudo for is unchanged in sudo RS, it is not just a one-to-one port of upstream sudo, which upstream sudo is like incredibly complex. There's a lot of stuff there outside of just what, most people think of as like run a command with elevated privileges. There's a lot more to it than that. And a lot of the issues or work, I think, has gone into other stuff like parsing of the sudoers file and things of that nature that are just not at the forefront of your mind when you're thinking about like what all has to happen when maintaining sudo.
Yeah, for example, there was a vulnerability with the sudo chroot thing, and sudo RS was not affected by that because they hadn't implemented the, frankly, unnecessary feature.
So like as sudo proper was built up over decades, how much of that kind of organically grew due to need and how much of that was like designed in from the beginning? I've never done any sort of like in-depth analysis of it, but I imagine a lot of it just kind of organically grew. And those were areas that sudo rs was able to look at and say, like, do we need this? Maybe it was poorly designed or sort of added on after the fact. Like there are things that they could remove to try and remove that attack surface, but that also doesn't speak to like, there are probably people that are still using 100% or close to 100% of upstream sudo's surface area if you were to sum up like all the uses of sudo. So it's not ones that upstream sudo can necessarily just remove.
Yeah, and so it does need ongoing maintenance, at least. So someone should definitely sponsor the project. A few months ago, we talked about IKEA's new Matter smart home devices. Well, there's a piece on The Verge. IKEA's new Matter smart home devices are having connection problems. And I had been seriously considering buying some of this stuff. So I thought I'd just mention this and see if anyone out there has bought any of the IKEA gear and are you having any problems with it? Because this article doesn't talk that much about Home Assistant. It talks more about other like Apple gear and all the rest of it. So I would imagine we've got listeners who bought some of this stuff. So do let us know, how did you get on with it? show@latenightlinux.com.
They're not able to turn the power on, Joe. They won't be able to get in touch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. They'll have to send a carrier pigeon or something. Okay, this episode is sponsored by Automox. If you're evaluating endpoint management solutions, the real risk isn't which tool you choose, it's choosing one without a proven blueprint for success. Because while most endpoint tools promise automation, next to none promise outcomes. That's why Automox introduced Turnkey results. Turnkey removes the uncertainty that holds endpoint automation back. It delivers a personalized results blueprint, so Automox is configured and operated to achieve real outcomes from day one. No trial and error, just clarity. Each blueprint is validated across millions of endpoints managed by Automox and tailored to your specific environment, your risk tolerance, and your operational goals. Instead of guessing how aggressive to be with automation or how to configure policies safely, start with a plan you can trust. And you can choose to implement the plan yourself or have Automox do it for you. Either way, you get faster time to value, lower risk, and predictable endpoint outcomes. Automox Turnkey results. Know the plan, trust the result. Learn more at www.automox.com. Introducing Immutable. I don't know how to say this.
Immutable.
Yes, exactly. So this is Immutable by Immutable. It reminds me of that film Anvil, the story of Anvil. But anyway, this is a website at this point and a company, and there are some key people involved. Lennart Pottering is probably the most well-known of those people, the systemd and many other things guy. He was at Microsoft. It seems he's left there to do this. And I don't know, there's just a lot of corporate-sounding VC speak on this website.
They said if you want to get more updates, sign up here. I did sign up there and I got no updates, so I'm as clueless as you are. But it does sound a bit like a right nasty way to lock down a PC. The thing that worried me, if this is really about like, you know, secure from the ground up, it doesn't sound like the type of thing I want to use or anybody else should use, because it sounds quite user hostile.
No, their mission is to deliver determinism and verifiable integrity to Linux systems.
And when you find companies that require that you have that, like your banking app, you no longer have a PC you are in control of. You have an Android phone where they won't let you if you've rooted it.
Immutable's mission is to deliver verifiable integrity to Linux workloads everywhere. We look forward to working towards this goal with the broader Linux community.
Mm-hmm.
I still have no fucking clue what this is about. Like, it sounds like they're going to do some sort of immutable distro that is maybe has reproducible builds or something, and SBOMs and all those buzzwords. Graham, you spoke to some of them at FOSDEM. Please tell us more.
So I don't know much more. I spoke to Michael Vogt, who's really an old friend and an old colleague of mine, and he's one of the founding engineers on the team. The team's only small if you look at the About Us. I agree with you that the website does have it's hyperbolic, a word. I don't know any certainties. Michael and I discussed in very general terms about the things that he's interested in, the things that they're interested in. I know that Michael used to lead the Snapd team at Canonical, for example. And Leonard's been working for a long time on features in Systemd to add a kind of native container format and a way of dealing with those things and a way of encrypting them and signing them and using the TPM on those systems. And reading what they've put there and knowing a little about the team, I don't see why it won't be purely open source. I don't see why it won't deliver for us as Linux users if we choose to use this on a device, say. I don't know why we wouldn't want to trust in something that takes over the system from the very first process, that ensures that every process running has been signed and is verifiable and is reproducible every time it does do that on a small Linux system. And as I see it, it's probably going to be a way of leveraging what's already in Systemd with what Leonard sees Linux doing in terms of booting and guaranteeing that and then trying to turn that into a business. That's my kind of take on what they're trying to do. And I don't see that as being confrontational with trying to lock us out of things. I feel like it's trying to create this very predictable, very reproducible, encrypted boot system for Linux, for containers, for running container applications, I'm going to guess.
So the Immutable guys got to you too. Oh dear.
So I've only been loosely following Leonard Pottering in the last few years, and this kind of seems like an extension of the things that he's been working on for a really long time. Like Systemd was looking at the boot process and trying to make it better. And like, if we can look at the whole system as a whole and rip out the parts that are old, put in some parts that are new and smaller, like that's kind of been the progression of this. And then he's given several talks in recent years-ish, although I don't know because it seems like my time frame has just like totally compressed over the past decade. But at least sometime in the past few years, he's given some talks on boot security and just how in Linux we are kind of behind the times with some of the other operating systems to give like actual, not just deterministic, but like secure boot in a way that respects the open source nature, but also the security of the users. And then also combine that in with like all of the advancements in containerization and being able to like boot into a container. And like, there's all these different possibilities. So this looks like a natural extension for him. I don't know about the rest of the team. This is one where I think it could either go one of two ways. He will start to fulfill some of that promise and there will be some good things that come out of this, or the, you know, people's thoughts on Systemd and kind of how that went could tank this, or the people involved. I don't really know this. It just seems way too early to tell, but it seems at least optimistic from the things that I've heard previously to what they're, I guess, trying to do, although it is really hard to tell from the website.
You know what wasn't hard to tell from the website originally before they removed it? The fucking link to their Twitter account. Who launches something in 2026 with a fucking Twitter account?
A vibe-coded website?
Yes. Things that are AI and crypto and VC bullshit.
I know, Michael. I don't think it'll be like that. Whatever they may have put up on their website in the beginning, I don't know. But I don't think we can be closed about this at this stage.
I mean, I think that's also like the new lorem ipsum. So like just generate some content real quick. I don't know.
But the fact that they were tone deaf enough to even have a presence on Twitter is a big red flag to me. But then again, I've been radicalized by Mastodon/basic decency.
I think you're basically a communist now, come on.
Pretty much.
I don't want to be completely pessimistic. You two are far too overly optimistic in my opinion, but all these things are great, but I think the secure boot horse has definitely shat all over the barn by putting the likes of the people who are in charge of that and signing stuff off, and the terrible, terrible, terrible security stance that most of the motherboard and hardware manufacturers have. Like UEFI is and secure boot are a bit of a farce at this point. I think we'd have to have something completely ground up, not including any of that stuff, to be anyway secure, but hashtag not a cryptologist, don't really know. So we'll see, I guess.
Cryptographer, not cryptologist. That's how much of not one of them you are, Phelan.
That was the joke. It definitely wasn't me accidentally saying the wrong word.
The caveat here being that I work on Ubuntu Core, which is a very similar thing. But it's fundamental to the way that Ubuntu Core has to work for the customers who are using it, that it's entirely secure and encrypted and booted from a key on the TPM. It's the only way to do it when you're deploying tens of thousands of devices. It has to be a solved problem.
I think that's okay if it's your device, if you're a hardware OEM or something like that, and you get control of all that stuff. But like, I don't know, I can't remember who it was. Was it Acer or Asus or, I don't know, Gigabyte, like accidentally uploaded the primary key and they completely invalidated all their signing ability because they've left something in that said it was called like something like do not keep this here .key. And they kept it there and it's part of the image and that's it, fucked. And I'm not very optimistic in these things because they get so complicated that I don't think anybody really understands it, bar the like 5 of these people in these guys might know what they're doing. But
if this is something to do with systemd, if they pushed back their things to systemd, why wouldn't it be open? Why wouldn't it allow any of us to sign our own keys?
No, I'm not worried about it being open and open source and everything. And it sounds to me like it is the systemd/Linux dream that Linux has had from day one.
It could be. I'm okay with that. I'm kind of interested to see what they do if that's the way that they go.
I'm also interested to see if they're targeting like just IoT style devices. Are they targeting PCs for users or everything? I mean, the website's kind of written like it's everything, but that could also make a determination on how I feel about this.
Well, it's far too early to judge this, and we probably shouldn't have spent 10 minutes trying.
I think ad hominem attacks is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Great idea.
Gotta say, Immutable is a pretty cool name, though.
I do like that.
Just a brief mention of KDE Linux. Nate put up a blog post, Busy Months in KDE Linux, and things have really been progressing with it. One of the standouts to me was that they're getting rid of Snap because, of course, KDE Linux is based on Arch, and Snap is in the AUR, and they want to get rid of all the AUR stuff, which makes sense to me. So they're going all in on Flatpak.
I don't know what I think about that. To be honest, I use Snap rather than Flatpak because I use a lot more command line stuff or daemon-based stuff. So that, to me, do you know what? I'm just not the right person for KDE Linux. The way they've done it, I mean, I'm liking some of the stuff he's been talking about, like the Delta updates. That makes sense. You know, going down from 7 gigs to about 1 or 2. They've been working on the Plasma login manager and stuff, increasing stuff with things like Plasma setup and that. But, you know, there's a few things in there that annoyed me. Like, they were going for Homebrew. I'm glad they didn't. I don't know. Something about Homebrew irks me the wrong way. I don't need somebody else on a different platform to come in with a package system and then use that. So, yeah. And there's things like Kwrite instead of Kate, getting rid of Eliza because people don't use stored music of their own anymore. Things like that. I don't know. It's not for me.
Well, Nate says that although it's very early days, you can still try it out, and he's been daily driving it for ages. And he says, even if you're worried about using alpha software because you're not a software developer or a mega nerd, it's perfect for a secondary computer, which I think is true. You don't really want to be putting this on your main machine, but if you've got an old laptop or whatever to chuck it on and try it out, why not? Give it a go. It's definitely one to watch.
Neon forever.
Good luck with that.
Maybe I'll just take it over myself.
Good luck with that.
Then it will be Neon for never.
Yeah, exactly. Right, well, we better get out of here then. Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin. It's been great having you.
It's been great being here.
We'll be back next week when hopefully you'll stick around. Until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelan.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Kevin.
See you later.